Well, Charles,
We're walking.
not today, but we are inside. The weather is predicting a high maniac count and rain.
Well, it's nice that we're starting off at HQ. We missed the music. We should have thought of music.
Yeah.
But anyway. But this.
Oh, and I also forgot to get this movie Green Hornet. I actually played a small role in this for the Japanese release. The stars could not be there, so Sony hired 21st Century 3D to do this little kind of mini movie that played at the Japanese release. And we had Cameron Diaz and Seth Rogen. And it was a French guy who directed it named Michel, I forget his name, but
Pepe Le Pew?
No, but we did a little 3D featurette for the Green Hornet. But this is the Green Hornet.
Well, which is the nut?
The Hornet is definitely Hunter Biden, and he's going green because these recent text messages or whatever that just came out, he had a Fisker. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Car.
There's a guy that Elon Musk hired to design the Tesla who decided it would be a better idea to steal the ideas and create his own car company. So Hunter Biden bought one of those and it didn't work.
Oh, really?
And somehow China was going to fix it for him.
Yeah, I mean, we are in a place now where if anything has been proven concerning the period 2000, say November 2000 to the present, it has to be that the United States and the UK and certain allied governments are the most incompetent and corrupt governments ever put on the face of the earth, including Nero and the fall of the Roman Empire. I mean, it's just ridiculous what is going on here. We're supposed to have a CIA and an FBI that's supposed to work together to, among other things, defend the national interests of the citizenry, that is to say, the tax-paying citizenry of this country. Instead, we have a grift machine. And it's on both sides. It's Republicans, and it's Democrats, and it's independents, and it's primarily dynastic political families. And the FBI and the CIA are a concierge service for the grifters. I mean, it's just ridiculous. How can you have the Vice President of the United States and the President of the United States and the Secretary of State under Obama all using private emails? All, the Clintons are monetizing the Clinton Foundation for their personal benefit, using the Clinton Foundation to monetize the government service for their personal and political benefits. So too are the various Biden charities, and so too is the nascent Obama Foundation. So too was the Bush Foundation. And how could you not understand? You have a bonehead, a son of a bonehead, Hunter Biden, right?
You son of a bonehead.
Who can't keep his unit in his pants.
Now, what is that? I've been hearing chatter about this, but he's saying something about his own...
Talking about the size of it and how he has...
To who?
I don't know. I mean, it's a story I just can't even... I shouldn't even have brought it up. But the point is, this guy is so far away, Hunter is. And Joe, frankly, and Barack Obama and Bill Clinton and George W. Bush, these are people, and H.W. Bush, so far away from being people who should have passed a strict national security test, a clearance test. I mean, how in the hell do you explain, as Joe Biden, he gets up there in the campaign, such as it existed in 2019 and 20, and he says at one point, I don't own a single stock. I don't have any money. I'm 74.
When did he say that?
When they were comparing to Trump, who's rich, he was trying to make a virtue out of the fact that he had no money.
But how does he have all these houses and
exactly.
stuff?
And the guy has an absurd, let's say Joe, by 1988 when he flunked himself out of the presidential contest, with these elaborate claims back in 98. 98 is what, 34 years ago?
Don't remind me.
It's a long time ago.
No, 24 years ago.
Sorry, I meant 88.
Oh,
88, yeah, 88. It's just preposterous that in the 88 campaign, he said, I was at top of my class, scholarship winner, this and that. And then he had to get up and explain that he lied about every aspect of his career, his position in college, his position in law school.
Doesn't he look like a little kid? Something's wrong with that suit.
The back of it.
It's too long. What's going on here? Isn't it too many buttons or something?
Yeah, you generally don't button 3 buttons.
He looks like a little kid wearing an adult suit.
But it looks frayed at the back, right?
There's a whole lot going on here.
And the legs there's something weird about this.
Something very weird.
I mean, don't the legs look kind of thin?
I mean, this is like an apparition of Joe Biden. I think he's a robot. They just have the top half of Joe Biden attached to robot pants.
Right. But if we stick on the Biden family and we say, here's a guy somebody who was in the Obama cabinet, admittedly a Republican Gates, wrote in his book that Joe Biden was every major decision that Joe Biden made in his political career was an error. Every single one of them. Okay? And if you're sitting there as head of the FBI, head of the CIA, the DNI, et cetera, and you got this scalawag, not Joe only, but a junior scalawag, Hunter, is out grifting around the world. He's on Air Force Two. How many times? 200 times, I think. Now it's up to 15 different business meetings that Joe Biden had in the White House while vice president with business associates of Hunter Biden. And you're telling me that you're going to go after, who's this guy, Peter Navarro, who has been on the show and I think is a very smart and decent human being, who's not a politician. That's his problem, Peter Navarro. He calls it like he sees it and he gets in a lot of trouble. But, I mean, you're going to go after Peter Navarro for the grave sin of using a private email address and sending government materials over your private email address. You're going to let Hillary Clinton off. You're going to let Barack Obama off. You're going to let Joe Biden off. All these people did the same thing, or worse.
Look at what Peter Navarro is saying about Schmuck Kushner. Fake cancer. Fake news.
I know somebody who did that, and it's horrible.
I would believe that, too. I mean, his father set up his uncle with a hooker. Faking cancer is like, that's a slow news day at the...
Yeah.
Peter Navarro said he never saw signs that Kushner was in pain and suggested that he made it up. Wow. Well, that is, I don't know that you would be in pain. I knew somebody that had thyroid cancer, and if he didn't tell me, I wouldn't have known.
I think the idea of...
Yeah, look, it says thyroid cancer symptoms often don't show up early in the disease.
I was never a fan, and if Trump does run and if he wins, I've never been a fan of operating government as a family business. It's a horrible idea. There must have been people, who could have performed the same function if he really needed to solicit the advice of his son-in-law. He didn't need to put him in the White House.
Take him out to dinner.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't agree. I don't like family businesses at all. Like, I've worked for some, and it's like,
your perspective kind of changes on whether it's your family business or not. But
well, it was not my family business, but the people telling me what to do who were in the family were sort of dopes. And it's like, I mean, I'll do that because you're the son, but this is the stupidest thing ever.
But that's the standard problem that family businesses run into. Actually, I think I've said this before, but at Dillon Reed, we had a lot of the clients were family-controlled companies, and a lot of the transactions that I personally was involved with were family fights, where one family member wasn't getting enough in the way of dividends or didn't like the fact that Uncle Schmo over here was a director and this person was just assistant vice president of bullshit, and the two, but I was one case I was on where this guy had never worked a day in his life, but he was young at the time, and he owned a big percentage of a public company, and his uncle just pissed him off, and so he just said, we're going to nail this guy. So we were hired to basically sell the company.
But it was the nephew?
Yeah.
Oh man, that gets ugly.
Well, the Irish company I was on the board of, it was a private company. The one we did, the Irish
My Left Foot Inc.
No, but it was
that guy hated his father.
Was it really? So this was an interesting company. I'm not going to mention the name of it, but it had been set up, I believe, by the grandfather who had two sons. And the elder son was the success in school, and the younger son wasn't. And I was in my 30s or early 40s, and this pair was like 60 and 70, and they had a horrible falling out, and so they had to basically change the ownership structure. One brother got to put 3 directors on the board, and the other got 3. I was one of the 3 for the younger brother. Very tense, and that kind of stuff happens all the time.
What about in Saudi Arabia, where they're trying to kill each other? That's a family business where the stakes are super high.
Yeah, there they just fucking kill you.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good.
But you look at this and you say, I mean, all these people, and at this point in media land, you're the hardest working person in show business.
Well, that's only because James Brown died.
Okay, yeah, that's right. But you're doing all these many shows. We just do together 2 shows a week, and the rest of the mainstream media can't be bothered. They're all fighting to get to the great cocktail parties out of Martha's Vineyard and East Hampton and stuff for the balance of August. But if you had if the New York Times, which is a lost cause, or the Wall Street Journal, another lost cause, these major print operations who have access to, who know how to tell stories in print, and who know how to do so with reference to exhibits that can hire accounting firms or whatever, it should be plain as the nose on your face that the Biden family has been bought and paid for more times than Paris Hilton has gone crazy around the world. I mean, the Biden family has been bought by the Chinese, by the Ukrainians, elements of the Ukrainians. We heard in the 2019-20 timeframe, John Solomon would always talk about the Romanians or some Romanian story involving the Bidens.
Really?
Basically, yeah. Any big oligarch-style foreign operation has been licking its chops, trying to figure out how they can make money by paying off people close to the Bidens. And here we have just picked 2 of them. When I talked to you about in 2016 when we had the favorite, the not so famous, but at the time I thought it was pretty cool to be down in Washington, D.C. late in May, early in June with about 35 people in the room and talking about what we saw as how the election was going to shape up. And these were all people with different strengths, and I'm not going to mention exactly who was in the room. But we had 2 people there. One was a personal friend of mine and another was his friend, who were experts on money laundering. And they explained...
Finding it or doing it?
Not doing it at all, no, prosecuting people for it. And they explained that a market develops for everything, and including money laundering. And at the time, in late May, early June 2016, they claimed that if you had $100 million of, just pick a number, I'm going to use $100 million to make it easy in this case, of black money that you wanted to launder into white money, it would cost you approximately 20 to 22 million to turn 100 million dirty money into 78 to 80 million of clean money, right? So that's a 21 on average % rake off. There's a story today in the press that maybe came out yesterday that apparently CBS has determined through some analysis that only 30% of the money that has been approved to go to Ukraine ended up.
Whoa.
So that, this is a fee, 2.5 times the fee, right? Or almost, what is it? Three and change. 70 over 20. So 3.5 times as much of a fee.
You familiar with this?
Which is this one?
That's Walter White showing his wife all the money at the storage unit, and then they bought a car wash and she became in charge of the car wash to launder all that.
Yeah, but I mean, that's I understand, I have friends who are expert in doing business in Africa, and there's a phrase in Africa, TIA.
What is that?
This is Africa. So when you give somebody $1 million and they're supposed to spend $1 million, they'll steal 5%. Or 10%. But to steal 70%.
Yeah, you're like, wait a minute, this is $30. And like, well, yeah.
Yeah, things, inflation.
A little off the top.
Putin's inflation.
Yeah, I think it's just a taste.
Yeah. but I mean, this is just so far away from being the place where we should be, right? That we have this guy who gets up and does public service announcements saying, I've been vaccinated, I've been vaccinated, you're not going to get COVID. I've been vaccinated, boosted, you're not going to get COVID. I've been vaccinated, boosted, or whatever, and I got COVID six or seven times, or however many different times he's gotten it. And you take this guy seriously? You're not going to take him seriously. Now we're running around. The Senate is running around. Even Bernie freaking Sanders is out there saying that this Reduce Inflation Act does not reduce inflation. We're going to spend over 700.
Bernie said that?
Yeah, over $700 billion. But of course, it's not going to reduce inflation. Why are we $700 billion is a lot of money. Back in 2008, in October of 2008, the plan to jumpstart the American and by extension global economy was a $787 billion plan. Now, I know there's been inflation since then, but to rush through on the heels of everything else we've done, you're going to rush through another plan that certainly is not going to reduce inflation.
I thought it's the Green New Deal just rebranded.
It's who knows what it is. But I don't think anyone at this point has actually read the final implications of what this bill is going to do.
It's like Barack Obama's book. Everybody has it, but nobody read it.
Or Michelle's thesis, or Hillary Clinton's resume. She doesn't have one. Still married to Ignatz. But you look at this pair. The mainstream media should be saying, "Wait a minute. Trillions of dollars are now going into Ukraine. We're getting new stories. The Amnesty International story was very important. Now, you and I, you have more experience in Ukraine with Ukrainians, let's say, than I do. But I've been to Ukraine a bunch of times, and I have been suspicious from the jump, as they say in Washington Square Park, amongst the drug dealers who are now there very actively by about 8 o'clock in the morning. I've been suspicious of this whole, we've got to save Zelensky, and Zelensky's a hero. To me, he has always reminded me, he's an actor, nothing wrong with that, but he's an actor. He's Michael Avenatti. I mean, he is, what he was saying made no sense. Anytime somebody tries to rush me into a deal, I immediately backpedal.
I agree.
And here's Zelensky, recalling his, well, that's interesting. Maybe he did.
What?
This ambassador defended Bandera. My goodness.
Yep.
So we don't really know
but
because
this was back in July.
Well, it's a month ago.
But then now Germany has come out with some report you were telling me about, right?
Yeah, that this whole. The money is all missing. There's arms bazaar. We had this story a number of days ago when we walked around about how there's a flashpoint between Kosovo and Serbia, I think. And people were explaining to me that Kosovo now has a very large arms market.
Oh, really?
Not simply, this, arms that are supposed to be in Ukraine or in Kosovo being sold on the dark web and elsewhere, and arms that were left behind in Afghanistan or in Kosovo and this and that. And we're just, the notion in the private, it crowdsourced the truth. If you had sat around a table and your people all had come to you and you all agreed you're going to spend $1 million on a project, and it was coming out of your revenue, in your bank account, and the project leader comes back and says, "Well, boss, good news, I managed to keep $300,000. What would you do? You'd be putting the guy in jail."
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's ridiculous in the private sector to do that, to have 70% of the money go in a legitimate company. In GE, it's probably, that's fine. Or a mafia-run company. Now, I don't think they let 70% go in the mafia, but in government, this is preposterous that this amount of money would be missing. And remember the pallets of cash in Afghanistan,
yes,
and Iraq. Tens of billions of dollars just went missing.
Well, that's just it. I think it's pretty standard that this is a money laundering operation devised by Joe Biden. Even if the money wasn't gone, they're selling. We already had that plane crash. The money is gone. This is different money being gone. I don't know. I mean, obviously, if RT can buy weapons on the dark web and planes are crashing, going to Cyprus or Greece or wherever the hell that thing was going, that's not Ukraine, and it's a Ukrainian cargo jet filled with weapons. I mean, it's just so beyond obvious that something is wrong.
Right. It's not like, and I don't have any personal problems with Ukraine. I would go back there. Once we're through this special military operation, and once things have settled down, and once we're back, if we ever get back to normalcy, I'd happily go back there. But to think that there's corruption in Ukraine, that's not a shock. That's like, there are rats in Manhattan. You kidding me? Of course there are rats in Manhattan. This is like the global capital of ratdom.
Maybe Washington, D.C. might be more.
I don't know.
But they're ready to give another $1 billion.
Of course, why not? He needs his cut. Hunter's got mouths to feed here. He's got these kids. He's got these ex-wives. He's got probably psychiatrists to pay for, or pretend he's paying.
Why don't they send all of the migrants at the border, train them up, put them in the Ukraine military, and be like, hey, here you go. Billions of dollars flowing around. Yeah. You got a job.
It could be F Troop, right? They remember that?
The FU troop.
Right.
Get out there.
Yeah, or all the people streaming across our southern border. Good news. You're going to the front lines.
Right.
Ukraine.
Huh.
But this is just the kind of thing where I've been in a situation like this when our Irish investment fund, we had a manager we had to fire, then we had a manager that didn't do so well, and we had to get rid of him. You get to a point where you say, listen, we can blame this on the manager, but ultimately we're the general partner. We control, this manager's an employee. At a certain point, people are going to come to you and say, how come you can't find a good manager? Similarly here, Oh, what? Stelter's now saying the investigation into Hunter is not just a right wing?
I guess.
Now? How long does this take? Where are we? It's August 2022, and
he's
this story is almost
Charles.
2 years.
I mean, look at the guy.
What a Humpty Dumpty.
Somebody told me he's like 35.
Chronological? Intellectual, certainly not.
But I'm just saying,
like
he
3.
looks older than me.
Well, he's just he's a blowhard moron.
Yes.
Nobody who watches CNN at this point.
My God, born 1985. He's 36.
Yeah. Well, that's chronological. Where'd he go to college?
You're being generous to presume.
Towson University. Now, I've heard of Towson. Is that in Maryland?
I don't know.
Let's see.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, Towson, Maryland. A training school for teachers, yeah. Training school for morons.
Tow truck drivers.
Barry Frundell voyeurism?
What is that?
I don't know. Let's.
A Jewish scholar, rabbi, and religious studies and philosophy professor at Towson University was suspended after being arrested in connection with allegations that he secretly videotaped women as they used a religious bath.
52 counts of voyeurism?
What a douche.
What an idiot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
He's a rabbi.
Not good. But at least he's one of the esteemed...
Now, is what's his name from Maryland? Stelter?
I don't know.
I mean, I would understand if he's from Towson, Maryland, maybe his family member taught there or something like that, but I don't.
I could understand if he's dumb, maybe he
Born
would.
in Damascus?
Was he?
The chief media correspondent for CNN? Because Mickey Mouse was not available? Damascus, Maryland. Okay, wherever that is.
Oh, okay. I was thinking Syria. Damascus High School. Towson University.
Of course he went to New York Times at age 22.
Huh.
Oh, he dated? I know Nicole Lapin. I guest hosted CNBC one morning with her.
It's like a rabbit.
She's beautiful. I'm very smart.
Indeed. I can't believe that she would date Brian Stelter.
She dated Jack Dorsey, too, I think.
Oh, my God. This girl's an idiot.
I don't know about that. He married a traffic anchor.
Huh. He married Jamie Shupak. They live in Lincoln Square. Oh, does he live in the building that CNN is in? Probably.
Are they up there? No. Lincoln Square is further uptown.
That would be, right, Columbus Circle, sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough of him. Not impressive.
Not impressive at all.
Now, this is
This
pretty
Anne
bad.
Hesh. Yeah, this is...
But they're finding out that she was on a podcast, boozing it up like crazy, and then down vodka, wine in podcast hours before the crash. Do not drink and drive.
Oh, probably also taking drugs.
Well, I don't know.
I mean, like medications. Never a good idea to do any of the above.
I think she's been really badly injured, like super burned up. She's admitted to heavy boozing at the time, blaming...
Oh, I mean, it's never a good move to be drinking on air, even, let alone
Correct.
behind the wheel.
Correct. That car is really... Now, we got a 9.3 right there, but doesn't matter. So, sorry, Charles, we have a lot of other stuff to talk
Yeah.
about, and I'm getting distracted by
Why don't we go down the
Twitter.
Twitter stuff? And actually, if I could just start, if we go down here, just mention this Substack thing. I'm going to gear up and probably have something out on Substack within the next 10 days because they have this phrase, you can turn a sow's ear into a silk purse. I mean, in other words, a bad development into a good development. This ridiculous bill that made it through the House and will make it through the Senate, it seems, calls for an increase in the number of IRS agents.
Oh, yeah.
By some IRS spending by some absurd amount, from like 14 billion per year to 80 billion, or some gigantic increase. Now, it's very difficult to hire people at this moment in time. It's a summer vacation, to go out and try to find qualified people to do this. Now, if you're going to hire, just go into Washington Square Park and take the charity con artists who are today tried to solicit me while I was on the phone for Black Lives Matter in a very loud voice. They were going from bench to bench. Hey, man, I'm soliciting for Black Lives Matter. My daughter, she died. She was 13 years ago. The guy was like 19 years old or 20 years old. He had a fake Apple computer thing, and he was like,
What do you mean?
To try to look professional. They have, the real charities on the
Scan
street.
stuff
They
or
have,
something?
yeah, they have, so you could just,
With your credit card
on your
or whatever.
tablet or whatever. And he's going this huge song and dance, and nobody. I mean, even this couple, the two girls next to me, one bench over, were listening, shaking their heads, and they left. And I said, there is no such thing as Black Lives Matter as a legitimate charity. We know that. Of course not. There's no Black Lives Matter. I mean, so you to try to get these 87,000 IRS agents is going to be very tough to do, which I think is the good news, because if you think about the different, as the McKinsey types like to talk about, the different buckets of concern. You have the for-profit bucket of corporations, and then you have the individual bucket of people who are wage earners or whatever. Then you have the biggest bucket of all, I think, where there's
Theft?
no charities.
The same thing.
Well, but there are legitimate charities. But the biggest bucket that is not policed, and it would be so easy for the IRS and Department of Justice to police, is the not-for-profit world. And maybe this thing where they think they're going to use the IRS to go after enemies of the Biden regime, I don't think they're going to have enough time to do that prior to the election. No, I don't think they physically, right, there are no tax filings really due until next year. And so I think there's a window of opportunity where they'll get the money appropriated for this, and then the new team comes into Congress and says, you know what, actually, we're going to reduce the IRS. We don't need to go up to 87,000 agents, but we are going to put a special team in to go after charities. Because in the not-for-profit world, an important difference in the not-for-profit world to the other two buckets I mentioned is the not-for-profit world technically is not allowed to commit crimes and then hire a whole bunch of lawyers to impede the process and accountants to impede the process of letting the government authorities discover the crimes. You can't do that. You can't appropriate funds for other than your authorized tax-exempt purpose, and you certainly can't engage in activities as a charity that are contrary to the law, contrary to public policy. So it would seem to me that this could be maybe it's just wishful thinking, but it could be a great development, frankly, that they got this across the line. And I'm just amazed that nobody amongst the Republicans says, now, wait a minute, why do we need 87,000 people?
Well, that's what I'm getting at. Look at this. This is saying that the number of... So a lot less women working for the FBI.
Whoa, don't go there.
Oh, we don't need a biologist working for the FBI. But the point is, this thing is saying...
Is Call Me a Man?
But...
I don't think so.
Wait. What I'm getting at is, this says the number of Federal Bureau of Investigation employees... They have 14,000 agents here.
Well, how can this be right, though?
I don't know.
Police officers, 210?
Where?
Bottom there?
Oh, it's got to be times something. What does it say here? Number of employees. Oh, FBI police. They have FBI police cars that I've seen.
Why don't they have FBI firemen and Air Force people? I mean,
I don't know, but FBI police is a car that I see in D.C.
Yeah.
I don't know what they do that's different than the regular... FBI, but let's see. Yeah, there they are. Look. So they have 210 FBI police. Let's see what Wikipedia says about it. The FBI police is the uniformed security police of the Federal Bureau of Investigation and part of the Bureau's security division. FBI police is tasked with protecting key FBI facilities, properties, personnel, users, definitely not laptops, visitors, information and operations.
Well, they got a really catchy motto.
What is it? Where is it?
Bottom right.
Protecting those who protect America.
Who protects the FBI police?
The FBI police. We have a different webpage for them. Oh, but it only came about in the 1980s. So, but see, this is what I'm saying. How you didn't even immediately know that there was an FBI police. And so what I am thinking... I don't know what this doctor has to do with the FBI police.
Take the vaccine.
Well, but what I start thinking when I hear that Joe Biden wants to add 87,000 people to the IRS is that probably 86,900 of them will be IRS police who will just be like, oh, you owe us money for taxes. Boom, up, shot him, broke into his house and threw him in jail for a year.
I'm just amazed that nobody... Not even, Chuck Grassley or any Marsha Blackburn. Why did nobody stand up and say, wait a minute, we don't need 87,000 more people in the IRS?
But haven't they been saying that?
I don't know as aggressively as they should have.
He's mocked.
Well, he's going to be, any Republican's going to be mocked in nude speak.
Wow. Chuck Grassley has been taken to task on Twitter after lamenting that Senate business would force him to miss a Grassley family reunion for a second consecutive year. Isn't he like 80 or something? I mean, that could be the last one he gets a chance to go to.
Again, what the smallest violin? I don't give a shit about that. Right? I actually kind of agree here.
Retire, yeah.
The Republicans, if we think about the job the Republicans have done in the Senate since, how far back do you want to go? Since when Newt Gingrich won that pivotal election and whatever. They held Bill Clinton in check for a number of years. And then impeachment happened and he was acquitted and Newt, not Manute, but Newt.
I thought you said Manute Gingrich.
No, I said Newt. Oh. He's a pretty tall dude, that Manute. Is he still alive?
Minute Bowl.
Look at the difference in size here.
Was he the tallest guy ever to?
But look at it. This is Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley's not exactly short.
6'11".
No, that was when he was a teenager. 15.
He's 7 foot something, I think, yeah. Right? Because the tallest.
Well, look at this picture right here. This is I think that's Charles Barkley, who's pretty tall.
Yeah.
And here's Manute, and here they are again.
So I'm pretty sure he and Yao Ming were the tallest ever NBA players. Oh,
Sun Ming.
I never heard of this guy.
Oh, he was in.
Manute Ball 7'7".
This guy was in.
Yao Ming 7'6".
The movie with Rush Hour.
Sun Ming.
I think so.
There used to be a Chinese restaurant near where I grew up called Sun Ming.
There you go.
This guy's Sun Ming. So wait a minute. I never heard of him before. He's way taller than you. I met Yao Ming. I think I've told you. He shook my hand, and I was like, "This is unbelievable."
His fingers went up to
He's just like he's like crouching down to even look at me.
That's right.
And actually, that was the second time I met him. I was on a plane from Houston to New York.
He was in cargo?
No, I was sitting at the front of the cheap seats, and he walked in right in front of where I was, and he had to duck his head to walk on the plane. And then he got to his first class seat and sat down, and his head was like,
I was going to say, he couldn't even fit
touching.
in that. He'd probably have to go in a cargo place.
Remember they had that commercial when they came out with the 17-inch MacBook and the Mini, and they had that Vern Troyer, the Mini-Me with the big laptop, and Yao Ming with the little laptop sitting next to each other on the plane. But that is not news, Charles.
Well, actually, there was some stuff on my Twitter feed.
Yes.
We could go quickly through it. So I started to talk about Substack. We'll have something out there.
People can follow at Charles Ortel.
Yeah. And
what have we got?
I was just, as I was waiting actually to come on air with you, I was just going through the latest stories. Here's the UN warning of worrying and dangerous conspiracy theories. F them. I was contacted actually over the weekend by a very polite and I think experienced person. I'd done all these interviews with Press TV and print for Tehran Times and stuff like that. And this idiot who runs the UN, the Secretary General of the UN is from Portugal. I think he used to be some politician in Portugal, is saying that the energy industry is immoral. It's obscene and it's immoral.
He tweeted that from his battery-powered phone?
Exactly, from his palace. But a lot of people who know more than I do about the energy industry were pointing out that the big reserves of oil and gas are owned by governments, typically. And governments around the world make a lot of money off the industry in terms of taxing the profits, normally the profits of the business before you get into excise taxes, taxing the incomes of the workers, taxing the dividends, taxing the transfer of energy assets, and on and on and on and on. And so this guy, the folks in Iran, the equivalent of the BBC of Iran, had me do an interview, and I basically said, this just proves how irrelevant the UN actually is. This guy, I mean, if the UN left, just stopped work, just in high school when you took the SATs, drop your pencil, time's up, just
now.
Drop everything. You know what the good news is, UN, you can go the fuck home. Just go home, and we'll take the buildings here, we'll raise them, we'll have a big construction project, we'll have we'll even can call it Eric Adams Town if you want. Where the UN was, we'll put up Eric Adams Town. Maybe we'll put some homeless people there. Maybe we won't. Most likely we'll sell condos. The UN is a complete and utter disgrace. It has stopped no war. It has spent a tremendous amount of money. It has resulted in UN, quote, peacekeeping troops have ravaged vulnerable populations around the world.
Yeah, they're always getting accused of rape and stuff.
F the UN, as far as I'm concerned. Until nation states are strong themselves, till cities and states and nation states are strong themselves, we don't need no freaking UN. It's an excuse for bureaucrats and grifters to live high in the hog in the fanciest cities in the world. Now, if you wanted to advocate for a UN that was going to pick the 10 poorest countries on earth, and that's where the satellite branches of the UN was going to base themselves, maybe I'd listen. But if it's going to be, well, we really think the restaurants are very good in New York, and we like the idea of not having to pay taxes, because the UN
Park
people
wherever
don't.
we want.
The UN people don't have to pay taxes or tickets or anything.
That's crazy.
No taxes on their income, and and then we'll go to Nairobi and of course Geneva and what other cities? Well, let's pick someplace in Asia that's really nice. We'll live there too. I mean, it's a disgrace, this organization.
It is. And I mean, even the cops are jerks. That's nothing new.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're going to do away with it, Charles. The Rockefellers like it too much.
I mean, if illegal immigrants are scared to get off the bus in Port Authority, maybe these people will be afraid.
Did we fully?
We did not. This is a serious German operation. I think folks have been getting to the bottom of how outrageous the grift and theft has been out of this money. We're hearing as well, this is not it might be in the story, but we're hearing that individual European nations and other donors are not following through on they make pledges, but they don't send money. And I just think it's gotten to a point where the theft is obvious. And then with this Amnesty International report, which alleges that the Ukrainians are committing war crimes by siting their troops in residential areas and using that as the residential nature as a potential shield, I think enough is enough.
We've known this all along. Oh, resigns.
Well, again, though, this is serious business. You've got tens of billions of dollars riding on this, and so pressures are going to be put.
Oksana Pokalchuk, who
Pokalchuk, probably.
Whatever.
Oksana Pokalchuk.
She's out.
Yeah, well,
fighting tactics endanger civilians.
Yeah, I think was that phrase. What's the phrase? Jump the shark. I mean, the whole Ukraine flag, scarves. It'll be like those. I don't know if you ever noticed. For some reason, like 30 years ago, pashmina scarves were a big deal, and everybody.
This is something you've pointed out to me, but I don't think.
Yeah, no, they were like the must-have socialite. You got to have the pashmina scarf or shawl or whatever it is, and it got to the point where it's so far away from being the must-have that you have the fake Gucci bags, the fake whatever they are, Louis Vuitton bags, and now these. Wow! So it's a huge back and forth. Who's Agnes Calamard?
Secretary General for Amnesty International.
Yeah, I'd side with her, actually.
Well, but she's saying that there is this Ukrainian-Russian social media mobs. Have we spoken about Ukraine's IT army?
You and I have. I don't think we have on the show.
Right. What was that guy's name? The IT army of Ukraine. Here it is. This is an important article.
Yeah.
So this is some big fancy cyber defense report by Stefan Sosanto. And here, this is the report. It's basically saying that Ukraine has created a cyber militia. Oh, where have I heard of that before? But it is the largest.
Who wrote it, Jason? If you go further up.
Stefan.
No, but add the description further down. Right there. ETH CSS Project Management.
Yeah, this is some think tank in Zurich, the Center for Security Studies, which I really don't trust think tanks. And this guy is connected to the Council on Foreign Relations and stuff like that. But he does seem to be saying things that make a lot of sense. It's the civilian IT community. It's military. It says right here, the IT army subsequently evolved into a hybrid construct that is neither civilian nor military, neither public nor private, neither local nor international, and neither lawful nor unlawful.
Well,
and
what
it's
is
two
this?
parts. Continuous global call to action that mobilizes anyone willing to participate in coordinated DDoS attacks. Now, he says elsewhere in the report that this is all made up of public data. He has no inside information. My personal feeling is it goes well beyond DDoS attacks of Russian civilian websites. And as the executive director or secretary general or whoever she was of Amnesty International said, this IT army engages in attacking individuals, taking down YouTube channels, taking down Twitter accounts. Right. This is the thing that's after me. And the social engineers who I speak about frequently, quite obviously, have joined this thing. Because just in the same way that the internet is a network, and although Twitter and YouTube are two different companies and two different networks, you might be on YouTube and not be on Twitter. You might be on Twitter and not be on YouTube. You can take something from YouTube and link to it on Twitter. These are separate networks that interoperate, and that's what this Ukraine IT army is. Gangs of other cyber militias
Right.
are able to participate in that thing.
Well, I would say that in the 15, 16 time frame, I took the view on the Clinton Foundation that it was such an obnoxious and ongoing set of crimes, and that's such a huge conspiracy to keep it quiet and make it possible for other dynastic political families of crooks to carry out the same sort of grift, that my approach on that was I felt it was something that people on both ends of the political spectrum, and especially people who are not politically active, would find so offensive that just by pounding it, getting every conceivable media outlet, any interview that I, almost anything, I would actually agree to go on air, from the left, the right. Eventually, it got to be Fox and ABC, a lot of local radio and progressive radio and stuff like that. In the middle of all that, somebody approached me who claimed that she was the leader of a 2,000-person network of former Bernie supporters who were really pissed off at what the Clintons had done, and their approach was just to, I would say something, and they make sure that the interview got broadcast to their network, and then from that, those 2,000 would go to other people and other people and other people. Now, I don't know whether that was even true, or who she may have been allied to. She claimed that her mother worked for the NSA, and I don't know if that's true or not true. But she was a very nice person, and we did get quite a bit of activity just getting this news out. And my view was not to say this is true or not. This is what I believe to be the case. I'll stake my personal reputation. I believe this is true. It's up to you, the reader or the viewer, to use your own mind. Take your mind out of park or reverse or up your ass, which is where it is with the Biden family.
Yes.
Engage it. Make sure you turn the car on first, and if it's going to be electric or air powered or whatever, put it into first gear and then start traveling and engage your mind. Look at you decide whether it's true or false, or mostly true or mostly false. And this notion that we need to have a disinformation unit where some government idiot is going to decide that say it's disinformation. We had 50 idiots around the time of the Hunter Biden thing stand up and say it's Russian disinformation when it's provably false that it was Russian disinformation. There's been nobody has suffered as a result of that letter going around, which definitely influenced the election of 2020. It definitely. What is this?
Well, this is interesting. This is a doctor who we were talking about on John Cullen Investigates on Friday, and he started following Cullen, and then they just nixed Cullen. And it seems like this guy...
Nixed him?
Kicked him off of Twitter for a day, and then there's all this drama going on. But he's writing a declaration here for the lawsuit against Joe Biden and Nina Jankowicz and all of those people from the Disinformation Board from the Missouri and Louisiana Attorneys General. And I didn't know that this guy was involved. He's a former professor of medicine and current professor of health policy at Stanford University.
What does he know?
Right. But he is, all kinds of medically qualified, and he's coming out saying, now, wait a minute, these COVID-19 restrictions deserve some debate in the medical community. And I didn't realize that he had written a declaration for this lawsuit that's gone in there a couple of weeks ago. I need to dig into this lawsuit and figure out what's going on, because it also said that there are some doctors who are joining, and I saw something about an amended thing, so I don't know what's going on here, but we got to look into that lawsuit.
Indeed.
See, it's amazing that you can sue the President of the United States if he does something wrong, but you know who's in the federal government that you can't sue, Charles?
Fauci?
You could sue him. Any federal judge cannot appear here.
Yeah. Well, they have to be impeached.
Yeah, I know. Well, so does Joe Biden, but neither of those things are as easily done as they are said.
I'm surprised Joe hasn't suggested that he should be impeached,
Yeah, I'm surprised he doesn't realize he hasn't already been impeached.
Yeah.
He's pretty dumb.
He
wait,
is.
we lost your Twitter there.
My account is permanently suspended?
No, my account is permanently suspended. Here, there's yours. My account is permanently suspended because they don't like, I guess, what I say.
I guess not. So we had a few other interesting. That's this one. This Clarice Feldman is really. I just love her writing, and I don't know. Did you get to see? I don't want to get in too much trouble for calling her what I would call her, but did you get to see this White House press secretary?
I didn't see it.
So she gets up and she says that the Supreme Court has engaged in unconstitutional activity in this Dobbs ruling. And just the way her demeanor, the way she tried to make the argument.
She looks like she's 15.
I know, it's ridiculous. She gets up there. She hasn't read the material. She hasn't gone to class. She has no clue what she's talking about.
Yeah, she acts like she's 15, too.
Right, and she just cannot speak in complete sentences and is just an idiot. I'm amazed. It has nothing to do with her gender, her sexual orientation, her ethnicity. She's just fucking stupid and proves it every day. And it's not a good fit. Do something else. Go advocate. If you want to advocate for queer rights, go do that. You're qualified to do that.
But I think she does it better if she's standing in front of a White House logo.
I don't think so. I mean,
it gives her more clout.
Maybe. I think it highlights the danger of putting somebody in. This is a person who's speaking for the President of the United States, and that's not like that's a good place to begin with. I mean, This is the idiot speaking for the idiot. And what she said was just so stupid. And Clarice Feldman takes you through it in her Clarice's Pieces article. She takes you through some of the legal explanation of just how pathetically stupid Karine Jean-Pierre is when it comes. I mean, she's just so far out of her depth on these issues. She obviously has never read the opinion. I question whether she ever passed an American history class based on her comments.
Well, I mean, she told us several times that she's the first black, gay, White House.
That's fascinating. I mean,
whatever it is that she is.
Do you know what you're doing?
That's the thing.
If you got there, and you had a serious health problem, and you go to your heart doctor, and the heart doctor is a black lesbian, and you say, look, I've got a serious problem here, and I'm just a little bit curious why you've got a saw out and you're trying to saw off my ankle.
Don, don't ask me that question.
Well, did I mention that I'm the first black lesbian heart doctor?
But did you, with a saw, but did you see where Don Lemon is interviewing her, and it was like, just at the beginning of when CNN and all of them started to realize how stupid Joe Biden is and asked her some kind of like negative question. And she was like, Don, don't ask me that. It's like,
It's like behind the scenes at Police Academy 6 or something like that.
Something like that.
Ridiculous.
Pretty bad.
And then,
so this was the thing where all the migrants basically didn't want to come to New York City because it's too dangerous.
That's pretty hilarious.
The crime. I don't know what's going on with the New York Post, but they have some blank ad here that prevents us from seeing the headline. Adams greets border crossers, but suggests most skipped crime-riddled city over fear.
Let's dwell on this for a second, because people know that you and I, we're not walking around today because the weather is inclement.
Yeah. And hot and about to rain.
Well, it did rain very hard, actually.
It seems actually kind of nice out right now.
Well, because it rained right before the show.
Yeah.
And it was unclear. But anyway, I happened to be out in one of the parks again this morning. And first of all, there was not a policeman or park employee to be found on Sunday morning.
Of course not.
Nowhere. The dope dealers were getting up. They're all high-fiving one another. There's this whole routine of people without a shirt. In some cases, they're women. In some cases, they're men. In some cases, who knows what they are, with sneakers with no laces, who have, don't even go through the pretense of asking for money with a reason. Got $1, got $1, got $1, and it's really sad because the park itself is pretty.
Yes.
And it is an important, in theory, part of the city, so important that the many foreign visitors who come, or people from outside New York who come into the city, generally find time to come down to the village and walk around and spend some time in the park. You have all these miscreants getting in fights, smoking dope early in the morning, drinking. There's garbage everywhere. And what the miscreants do is they try to focus on people they think are weak. So Asian women, female tourists,
old people,
older people, people with children, because they figure that the people will worry about, and they threaten them basically. They don't say, give me money or else, but they're gesticulating, moving their hands around. And it would be so simple. Giuliani talked about what he had to do as mayor after the mayor before him. You start with the simplest infractions and you went really hard on them. No drinking in public.
That's what I've been saying.
Get
those bicycles out of the park.
You start with the stuff that's easy. And the rest of the stuff, when people see you're going after the easy stuff,
right,
they get terrified of what you might do on the tough stuff, and the crime rates drop.
Broken window policing, they call it.
Right. And so the approach here of Eric Adams, who, I don't know who's dumber, Eric Adams or Karine Saint-Pierre. It's a tough call. Or Joe Biden or Hunter Biden. I mean, it's not a race thing here. These are just idiots.
We could have Manute Gingrich and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Right. I mean, it's pathetic to see the direction this city is the trajectory we're on.
People saw me go to the barbecue at the 6th Precinct the other day, and the guy gave me his card. I sent him an email within minutes of coming back to the apartment, and he hasn't written back.
He's, I don't know. I think there's a few more stories on there.
Plenty.
Oh yeah. So Biden comes out, he tests negative. Probably he'll test positive tonight.
Test negative for brain.
Test negative for, common sense, but for honesty. And a number of people are trying to redo the one China policy. And to me, it's
what is the one China policy? Because sometimes they're saying we're with it, sometimes they're saying we're not.
It's a muddle. Both the communists and the Taiwanese, both governments, the theory is that the communists want it to be one China in which they control everything. The Taiwanese want it to be one China in which they control the mainland. And
Taiwan wants to control all of China?
Well, that's the whole, the government that is in Taiwan is an outgrowth of revolutionaries who lost to Mao, so they went to Taiwan, and they now want to go back. You see, and actually a lot of the money, a lot of the capital in the communist country is Taiwanese money. Now, the simple place to start, and this is why I think Dr. Henry Kissinger should give his doctorate back, his government pensions back, all of his money back, and shut the fuck up. I mean, the only experience, I think I told you this before, but when we were doing a hostile takeover at Union Pacific of a trucking company, and we had all these, Henry Kissinger was on the board, and it was all this very top secret stuff. You can't talk, don't do this and don't do that. And Kissinger's actually asleep in the board meeting. He's literally, he wasn't, from memory, this is back in '86, he wasn't that tall.
No, he's like a little...
He's like a square. I mean, there's a good picture of him. Exactly, to tell you the truth. And the guy is, he's one of these guys, he's a small snorer. Or I know you have the phrase snorer, but he's a small...
Schnorrer. That's if you invite him over to your house and he doesn't leave for a week.
Well, that's more or less what he did. Yeah. He came from Germany and he's never left.
Yeah.
And who knows where in Germany he came from. But anyway, he sits, everyone else is listening to these stupid... I'll never forget, there's this one... the tough question is, how would the IRS look at this and the Justice Department look at the acquisition of Overnight Transportation, which was a trucking company, by Union Pacific? And this guy, our mutual friend, we won't say his name, built the lawyer up. Says so-and-so is an expert from this law firm and that law firm, and it was a Supreme Court clerk.
And he's sleeping.
No, and Kissinger's asleep listening to all this, and this expert gets up there and says, so how do you think the Supreme Court is going to look at this deal? And the guy goes, and Kissinger's fast asleep, and the lawyer says, we think the Supreme Court will regard this transaction as the acquisition of a trucking company by a railroad. Like,
oh, that's
wow,
profound.
how much did I pay you? which there's an ancient, you made the significance of that. There's an ancient statute when cars were just coming together. Trains had been around for a long time. People were fearful that train companies would buy nascent trucking companies and just keep them out of business so that the railroad. But anyway, it was absurd. We laughed. People were laughing so hard that it woke Kissinger up, and he just got up, left the boardroom. And somebody said, some board member said, well, where's Henry going? And this is after the warning. You can't tell your family members about what we're doing. You can't tell the details. This is sensitive information. We're going to do this hostile raid. And somebody, and I'm not going to say who it was, a very famous person said, it's simple. Henry's been working in the government. He's calling his broker. He's got to make some money. So the board's just laughing. It wasn't a funny matter. But you look at this guy, and we have a weakness in this country for foreign accents, English accents, French accents, stereo voices, and especially these German, Klaus Schwab.
Virtually impossible to understand what I'm talking about, Charles.
Right. But, the simple call back in 1970 would have been,
kill this guy.
well, no, the simple call is if we starve the Chinese Communist Party, the country is in horrible shape. We had been welcoming refugees from communist territories. Some of the most productive people in America are descended from Chinese people who left either before or shortly after the advent of the Communist Party. So the simple call that a real patriot would have made is we don't support communism anywhere, and in particular not in a country of 1 billion people now, 1.3 billion. So we're not going to go down a strategy of thinking that as communist dictators get richer, they're going to abandon communism. No, they're going to look at this and say, it worked for us in a country of 1.3 billion, let's do the whole world. And the pipsqueaks in the United States didn't get it, And so
They love each other. Look at this.
I know, well, of
Is
course.
that Ford? Is that
That's Ford. There.
Gerald Ford behind him? And
Yeah.
then what is this his daughter or something?
I don't know. That's Gerald Ford, who played football without a helmet.
Right. In Michigan.
Yeah. And they went to Yale Law School.
It's amazing to me. He's pretty stupid for going to Yale.
He's still pretty dead.
Well, he's dead, but he was stupid. Look at how many times Kissinger was hanging out with Mao.
Yeah. And this whole, allowing somebody to point their finger in your face, that doesn't happen. And it shouldn't happen to an emissary of the United States government. But anyway, this strategy was engagement, appeasement, whatever you want to call it, has been a disaster from inception. People should have known that. Had we been tougher on the Chinese, probably the best and brightest minds, more of them, would have left China and be energizing this country. Instead, we've sent mixed messages at best. The current occupant of the Rehoboth Mansion, not the White House because he's never there anymore, his family has never answered legitimate questions about how much money the Chinese Communist Party funneled to the Vice President of the United States through his brother, through his son. Nobody is asking any of those questions, but people were upset that Jared, what's his name, Jared? Kushner's sister or cousin or something, had some kind of in between the election of 16 and the inauguration of 17, in Asia, there was some kind of seminar about how Asians could under Trump, acquire citizenship by investing in the United States of America. People went ballistic about that, and they should have, but not with the Biden family being, bought and paid for by
It makes zero sense. Somebody in the comments is saying that Kissinger went to high school with Mao. How would that have happened? Maybe in Switzerland or something?
I don't know about that.
How Kissinger pulled off a secret trip to China.
Yeah.
And then this looks like Frank Sinatra. Richard Nixon and his national security advisor, Henry Kissinger, make contact with China But in the midst of the Cold War, they don't want anyone to know. How will Kissinger get to Beijing without alerting anyone? And what's Frank Sinatra got to do with it?
Yeah, this is a story for another day. I've never...
But that's a pretty wild... I have to send that to David Hawkins. Let's continue down the Twitter brick road.
Yeah, but so the idea that we're going to go soft, that Biden is going to allow... Now, this is very good here. John Cleese, he's the famous Monty Python guy, and he's always been very, very funny, but he's now saying that wokeism and intolerant...
ruining comedy.
It's not just... It's ruining the world. It's just... Humor is... When you repress criticism, you end up in a very dangerous, likely more violent place. That is the opposite of what people wanted in this country, the founders wanted. You've got to provide an opportunity for constructive criticism. And here it's merited. I mean, it's not like this Biden administration is covering itself in glory. It's covering itself in gory.
Yeah.
But anyway, good on John Cleese, who it says here at Cambridge he studied law, which is,
he's obviously extremely intelligent, right?
Just saying, good career call, right?
He's like, this is a joke.
Exactly. If he'd been studying,
he stood up in the middle of the law class and he said, I'm sorry, this is ridiculous. I'm not participating. And he left.
But can you imagine if he had made the opposite call? He'd probably be dead at age 50. Right.
But if you were in court and he was the lawyer, did you ever see A Fish Called Wanda?
Absolutely.
He's a lawyer in that, or a judge or something.
Judge, I think.
It's pretty funny. Yeah. John Cleese is great. Yeah. But anyway, this thing is Equity, which is like, I guess, the British version of SAG. And they've put together this whole list of things like a charter, condemnation of any performance conducted at the artist's expense on behalf of someone else, pay to play and brings gigs. It's just a list of anti-harassment stuff to protect comedians. And this is kind of what John Cleese has been talking about, that it's just ruining comedy and it's an important art form.
It is.
Yeah, and it's not funny anymore.
Yeah, this is the thing. Only 30% of U.S. weapons reach their destination. That's ridiculous. A 30. Think about that in school, in high school. Get a 30 on a test.
Well, right? But the point is 70% of them are going to do chaos elsewhere, and this is dangerous stuff.
Is that bad?
Seems not good.
But this is on CBS.
Wow. And they don't even have Cheryl Atkinson anymore.
Right. These people need billions. You know how expensive it's going to be to keep this lady in private jets and haute couture?
Wow. Unbelievable, Charles.
And then...
what is going on here?
Yeah, this Paul Pelosi went on the recent trip of Nancy Pelosi.
What? Yeah, I don't know if we've spoken enough about this Nancy Pelosi trip, because... what was the purpose of it? She was just there like, to
prove
liberty,
she's an a-hole.
Security, those are two things. And, okay, thanks. And it's like, what the hell did you just say, Nancy Pelosi?
Well, did you see that thing she said? People are really skewing her for this. I didn't put the link in. She was in somewhere in Asia or somewhere, Japan or something, and she said, when I was a little kid, my parents would tell me to dig all the way down to underneath San Francisco or China. Well, it turns out underneath San Francisco is Australia, not China.
She's so stupid.
But look at this. That thing, like the molten core of the Earth might have gotten in the way along the way. But
isn't that insulting to say to people in China? It's like, that's stupid, Nancy. But look at this. They've facial recognitioned Paul Pelosi Jr.'s tie.
Yeah.
They're like, that's from one of our factories. It's model 001-1.
Well, again, I don't think, I can think of some cases, but for example, the fact that my father is still alive and has all kinds of patents on very complex stuff, and his thesis, PhD thesis, was on the cover of the Journal of Physical Review Letters when he was 26, does not make me qualified to go to deliver lectures on physics around the world. And similarly, the fact that this idiot, Paul Pelosi, happens to be the progeny of Nancy should not give him a free pass and a first class ticket on this grifting trip.
But this is exactly analogous to what Hunter Biden was doing.
Exactly.
And given that we know that he was getting involved in deals, this should come under some pretty
Heavy
tight scrutiny.
All of these people, whether it's Mitt Romney's son in Ukraine or John Kerry's stepson or all these people, the Bush family, you name it.
Manute Gingrich.
Yeah, Manute Gingrich.
Whoever.
Yeah. There was another one there that you had. Yeah,
this guy?
This is a Chuck Ross story. And this is to me so outrageous. I mean, there really should be. I'm a huge fan on the weekend of watching stupid television shows just to get relaxed. So I watch SVU or whatever the different shows, and it's in any police drama is always about the internal affairs is internal affairs dirty and the cop clean or the vice versa or what's going on. I mean, how in fuck's name, I'm sorry, do you let this douchebag sell the Russian collusion delusion, not get disciplined for it, and
or
then
fired.
Say that Hunter Biden's laptop is bullshit, is Russian disinformation? How does this guy still have American citizenship? How come he is not in Guantanamo? These are two explosive stories, right? Let's dirty up President Trump and let's make sure he doesn't get to be reelected. It's the same play here. What business does the FBI have? It would certainly seem to me interfering in national elections of global consequence. You want to interfere in the election, the CIA, you want to interfere in the election in Moldova, I don't think you should do it. But in theory, the downside to the American individual is low. But when you have the guy's an obvious, look at him. I mean, he looks like a douchebag. And somebody like this, I mean, he should be, I don't know what the rules are in the FBI to try to fire somebody. What do you have to do? Do you have to go in and murder the director? But I mean...
Where's Moldova?
So,
it's right here next to Russia.
Yeah, it's supposedly it's
probably nice. Actually, I seem to remember there are a lot of extremely hot chicks in Moldova.
Exactly, and it's pretty far east. You see, here's Hungary and here's Romania. I didn't realize how big Romania is. So it's right between Romania and Ukraine.
Not a good place to be right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't think. Better than Tirana in Albania.
So is anything going to happen to that Brian Auten?
Well, it should. I mean, and then for Christopher Wray, did you see what Christopher Wray said in his testimony?
It was idiotic, but he's always idiot. He's like, it's very troubling. It's like, Dick, you're in charge of the FBI. Right. What are you doing?
But he's got the James Clapper, like doing this. It's horrible.
He's like a 1970s umpire, like a first base coach, like pulling his ears and like doing this.
But somebody asked a question about, are you concerned about whether these whistleblowers, can you assure us that the whistleblowers won't be retaliated against? Ray's the thought bubble is, we got their name and address. We're going after them right now, asshole. But he's made some comment about how it's not the role of the FBI to determine whether something is true or false, and that they should just, we stick to our, wait, whoa. What are you saying here? How do you investigate if you're not determining what is true and what is false? I mean, isn't that the whole point of an investigation?
The FBI has a super tricky way of talking about stuff. Grassley's questioning of Wray suggests Biden's scandal is the tip of the deep state iceberg.
Well, and this whole thing, I mean, they have these phrases that it's kind of like, this is not the droid you've been looking for. I mean, we cover ourselves in glory, we have over the horizon interdiction capability
to bomb the wrong people.
Yeah, that's what we do. We use these sushi carving missiles.
Just indiscriminately send a bomb.
No DNA. There's not going to be a DNA. You're talking about smithereens, man, and then we vaporize it. But we got them. Don't you worry. We got them. And then in this case, it's, Senator, I can't really comment on that because there's an ongoing FBI investigation.
Right.
Yeah.
That's their favorite thing to say. And we can't confirm or deny if there is an investigation. Maybe there's an investigation, but I'm not even going to tell you that.
Right. But so, which actually, if you had an honest FBI, that is, in in the tradition, as I understand American law, and I'm not a lawyer, but as I understand it, you're innocent until proven guilty, which we need to start with that always. You are actually innocent. Even if it looks like hell, you're guilty as hell. Technically, you are still innocent until you're proven guilty. And so for that reason, the FBI shouldn't be going and telling people, hey, we'll talk about this story actually, that the FBI shouldn't be confirming that there is an investigation. They just, you do the investigation, it results in an indictment. It's either sealed or unsealed. If it's unsealed, the public learns about it, you get a chance to defend yourself. You're either proven guilty or you're innocent. There's no question of being exonerated. You were innocent until the beginning. So at the very beginning. But so this just back on the previous one, if you don't mind. Not that.
This?
No, what I was just talking about.
Oh.
Yeah. So this whole, for Grassley to be this patient with Wray and let this go on this long. I mean, the Mueller farce was just that. We have how many people are sitting in prison now,
right.
Not even on charges.
There's like 6 that Joe McBride is defending.
This is a gross affront, frankly, to the Constitution. And, here we're lecturing the Chinese about...
Right, human rights offenses and stuff.
And so this type of behavior obviously harms a lot of people, Americans, but it also undercuts our standing in the world.
Right.
And it's therefore helpful to our enemies.
Correct.
So I think, taking a big step back away from this, unfortunately we're here in New York, but at least we're not in D.C. We're not directly part of the swamp. All of the folks, right and left, Republican and Democrat, anybody with an axe to grind, a paycheck to earn in Washington, D.C., is easily seduced and, squashed. This is an odious mess. The swamp is far more toxic today than it was in 2016.
Yeah.
And many trillions of dollars, particularly after the pandemic in March of 2020, have now been borrowed, are sloshing around. Maybe 30% went to where they're supposed to go. The 70%, who knows where that's going. If the IRS agents are going to be taxing that stuff, and real FBI people are going to be coming in, putting the people who stole that money, maybe I'll be happy. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. This story here about Grace Church School is, I was at Grace Church School for 2nd through 6th grade in 1822, whenever it was, a long time ago. And you can say what you want. There are a lot of errors in the reporting. At first, this is not a Catholic operation. It's Episcopalian, which is different. And actually, Grace Church School, you see this is a beautiful, this is an incredible insult to the people who have been, you shouldn't be using this in this fashion.
Yeah.
If it were a heterosexual dance, this is not, a party venue.
Right.
Right? This is
even just a person walking around in there with their underwear showing is disrespectful to any kind of churchgoer.
Right. And just again, it cannot be positive for the effort here, the drag queens, to so besmirch hallowed ground in this way. Now, mind you, this school, when I went, the school, it was back, I think I started in 1963, and the school cost $500 a year, which, you put things, that was actually pretty expensive in 1963. Not as expensive as $57,000 after taxes today.
Is that what it is now to go
per
there?
kid? Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Well,
and the point of it is that you can't, if you set your price tag at $57,000 per day.
Is the trans show extra?
Yeah, well, the clothes are, but at $57,000, right? That's just what you pay to the school. That doesn't count, I don't think, books. It certainly doesn't count uniforms when they were wearing uniforms.
This is the new uniform, Charles.
But $57,000 after tax. I mean, the average family in America of 4 with 2 earners typically makes $65,000 or so pre-tax. So here you're talking about a community of parents who has enough money to shell out per kid $57,000 after tax in a city where city and state tax rates are very high. Everything is very expensive. And the really bad thing about the way this was done, because I get all these emails from the alumni people trying, the headmaster is terrified of what's going to happen, is they set this up that if you didn't play along and endorse this, they would say that you were homophobic, and they'd stigmatize these kids, is what the report's coming back. And the parents, were there. Now, wait a minute. It's one thing to do this in the church. It's another thing to humiliate kids, with the money that is being paid here for this expensive school at a time that's so crucial in the evolution of a child. I don't know what your life was like, but I know that, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, that's when you're going from being a kid who cares about toys primarily to somebody who can think like an adult, but who's not really fully formed physically yet, and you're wrestling with emotions and puberty and all kinds of confusing thoughts. This is just an irresponsible thing to have done. And I don't even think it does a service to people who are, queer. I don't think it's really deplorable, and I'm just ashamed. I mean, actually, I have different priorities in my life now, and so I kind of like it when the different schools that I went to fuck up so badly that I don't have to ever think about giving them money.
Maybe Horace Mann will have a trans show now.
No, the Horace, I'm sure it does that. Yeah, this is to dig in the hole to China.
She's like, we're going to have breakfast tacos and then dig to China.
Right. Where are the Bloody Marys? I've only had 7.
Yeah.
Madam Speaker, it's 6:30 in the morning local time.
She always looks like she's about to do a drunken face plant, but one of those ones where you're like, "Oh my God, you better call an ambulance." And she's like, "No," and gets up. I'm fine.
She's got pie all over her face.
I need another martini.
Oh,
what else we got here, Charles? Oh, Kolomoisky, what's going on?
Well, we talked about this before. Zelensky, this guy Hans. I don't apologize, Hans, if I slaughtered the pronunciation of your second name, but Monk or Monkey. Is a writer for Epoch Times, and apparently Zelensky, he's a good journalist, and Zelensky has thrown Kolomoisky under the bus.
Huh.
And people are wondering why you would do that, because wasn't Kolomoisky the money behind Zelensky in the first place? So why is he turning on Kolomoisky, and who has him do this, and what's really going on there?
Maybe he thinks he's...
I think he believes, Zelensky believes he has the backing of the Biden family and nothing can go wrong.
Right. I think this is the moment where Zelensky, the bottom drops out.
I think you're right. I mean, we could wake up tomorrow morning and discover that Zelensky had a tragic accident. He was walked out.
Well, no one would doubt that, right? If they just blew up the whole entire Kiev presidential mansion or whatever he's in.
Or just, he was on the 29th floor and decided to walk through a window,
I just don't understand why they haven't blown up the presidential whatever.
Well, what I don't understand, speaking as somebody who lives in a shithole in America, I don't understand why our federal government is spending nickel one on Ukraine at this point when we've got hot and cold running rats and beggars all over, and criminals all over the major cities in America. We've got potholes, we've got crime, we've got illegal immigrants streaming in to our country. We've got financial markets out of control, companies out of control, speculators out of control. What the silly me. This is, you've seen Yes, Prime Minister and Yes, Minister, but this is, for people who have not seen these shows, if you like English humor, I assure you it's worth watching almost every one of the shows. The writing is so fantastic. Sadly,
the bugs.
Yeah, well, see, if you make it a little smaller, who knows what kind of bug this is, and you see my comment.
Well, but they've been talking about it a lot. It's this dangerous Chinese spotted...
Spy?
But you're not allowed to call it Chinese anymore, even though that's what it is.
Is that a Chinese spotted beetle?
Something like that. And but now they're just calling it the spotted.
Oh, well, come on. I say
it eats trees or it does something detrimental to the environment.
It's dinner at Davos. I mean, remember that the people at Davos want us to eat bugs.
That's a spotted death pterygoida. It's named that because contact as short as 10 seconds has been known to cause severe blistering and lesions 24 hours. And the guy's got it on his hand.
And he's got
lantern fly. Well, spotted lanternfly, Chinese spotted lanternfly, right? And everybody says you should kill them. I don't necessarily listen to that. It says kill it immediately. We need every New Yorker to keep their eyes peeled for spotted lanternflies this summer. If you see spotted lanternfly in New York, say kill it immediately by stepping on it or crushing it. I actually saw one the other day.
Did you really?
I didn't kill it.
Then this is on you. Blame me.
Oh, yeah, it's my fault. Spotted lanternfly destroyed trees from China. Yeah. Yeah. Well, what are they doing in New York City? There's barely any trees
Are
here.
you kidding me? I mean, you walk down the street. The big thing this morning around where I live is some idiot had gone and turned over every garbage can and strewn the garbage all over the sidewalk.
But there's no trees in the garbage.
But I'm just saying that strewing of garbage in high heat and then
Bugs.
moisture is going to bring rats and bugs and dirt and disease and whatever.
Well, I love this genius who's like, hey, anybody have any idea what this strange thing is? Oh, yeah, that's the instant death bug that you're holding.
Serve them to Davos.
Dummy. Yeah. Well, what else do we have going on? Oh, this is great. Dick Cheney advertising for Vagina Cheney.
He does. I mean, he's somebody who's never been able to read the audience properly, right?
He's just a terrible guy.
Who played him in Saturday Night Live? Didn't somebody?
Maybe Dana Carvey, but he was in the movie Vice. It was really, what's his name? Christian Bale. He's a fantastic actor. Yeah. I mean, he almost looked kind of exactly like him.
Yeah.
That was a good movie, Vice.
Yeah, but Cheney pox, and the fact Cheney pox is a lot more dangerous to the population at large. And the notion that anybody listens to, I mean, I had thought that Wyoming was a place, you got Senator Barrasso out there, who's a doctor and sensible guy, despite being a doctor, not a witch doctor, a medical doctor. And I thought Wyoming was a place, if you take out Jackson Hole, where all the skiers and rich people go, the balance of Wyoming I thought was sensible people who live off the land or conservative, whatever. How this idiot Liz Cheney got elected and why she could think that she's qualified now to run for president. And the fact that
Does she think that?
Yes.
Oh.
And here you have
but
this
everybody
kind of
hates her.
I mean, Lachlan Markey used to write for, I think, Washington Free Beacon. But, I mean, how Axios can promote this idiot? I mean, if you want Liz Cheney, she should become a Democrat. She should admit she's a Democrat. Right?
I think she'd be successful as a
Democrat. She could move. She lives, I think, in Virginia. Represent some district in Virginia.
Well, also, alternate plan is just go to hell.
Yeah. And
don't run for Congress at all.
An STFU or become a lobbyist. But I mean, she and Adam Kinzinger and these other people.
Listen, this thing that they're doing with the January 6th committee is such a gross affront to due process, our individual rights. I mean, for them to sit there and tell Russia or China anything about, political dissidents and human rights, it's ridiculous.
Do we have due process and human rights?
Apparently not.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely not. Look at Alex Jones. Look at what's going on in my cases in civil court. And it goes without speaking that the people who are losing years of their lives in prison over January 6th, they're being, I think you probably would rather live in China.
Yeah. And now we have Israel's bombing in Gaza.
Preemptive airstrikes over Gaza. Oh, boy.
This is interesting. Look at this. Trending on Twitter, abolish the IRS.
Well, everybody says
but on Twitter?
Well.
And actually, did you see that Jack Dorsey, or at Jack, said something like against the CCP?
Uh-oh. What did he say?
Yeah, here. Next one down. End the CCP.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting? Because, I thought Jack was, maybe this is a fake Jack account.
No, that's him. To check. And it's just at Jack. He should change it to Jack Off. Yeah. Life in Beijing. Relentless COVID testing and health app that dictates where I can go. Oh, she's in Beijing, New York. Green code is needed to enter public areas. Red means quarantine, isolation. Authorities lack people track people's movements through these
But
apps.
isn't that interesting that Jack would?
He's lying.
Yeah.
This is a very attractive Chinese woman. Oh, she's going to go for the anal. Maybe not.
She is very pretty.
Beijing under partial lockdown and constant monitoring. Yeah, same thing with here, Jack, thanks to you.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I don't know, Charles. I am definitely not a fan of Jack Dorsey or Twitter.
Or this guy.
Wait, we lost your Twitter.
That's okay. We'd taken it about as far as we needed to go, I think.
Well, what else would you like to discuss, Charles?
Well, we're now, as I mentioned, in really the dog days of summer. What?
Tim O'Donnell says Klaus Schwab's daddy was buddies with Hitler, literally.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
Why the hell are we listening to Klaus Schwab about anything with his space outfits?
We are not listening to him. I mean, he should just, he needs to just shut the fuck up, go away. He needs to be investigated.
By who, though?
Well, this World Economic Forum, what is it?
I don't know.
Why should that thing, I don't know if it's a charity or not. If it is a charity, why, I would argue that American taxpayers should not be allowed to donate to the World Economic Forum because it's a shameless self-promotion exercise for Klaus Schwab and his family. And I would guess if we could see the real numbers of how much money he's made off of this thing. I know that Ted Malik wrote a book. We had him on the show several times. I think Ted is a good man, who was the executive director of the World Economic Forum. And he said it is, here we go, here's World Economic Forum, LLC. That doesn't sound to me like a charity. Here's one in Hong Kong.
Inactive.
Right, but
Delaware.
Wind energy branch office in Singapore. This to me, this says it's a branch of a non-profit.
Oh yeah, look at that.
And then you have, the World Hindu Economic Forum Limited, the World Islamic Economic Forum. This just, the World Grift Economic Forum, I don't see
the World Edible Mushroom Economic Forum. Yeah. The Cybacillic Mushroom Economic, that's why he's wearing the space outfit.
That's right, exactly. Wrong meeting.
So, but wait a minute though, are these, is this
Why don't we Google,
Schwab?
Let's Google World Economic Forum in Wikipedia and see what they say about it.
Who does it say is in charge here?
But that's the USA. If you just go a step backwards into Google and Schwab, let's say in Wikipedia, there we go. It says an international non-governmental and lobbying organization that you're not supposed to do.
Kalongi.
The foundation is funded by 1,000 companies.
Uh-huh.
This to me sounds like Swamp Central.
Yeah, why haven't we been looking at this more?
I don't know.
International Lobbying. Executive Chairman, Klaus Schwab. It says directly influencing global agendas and decision-making, lobbying for public-private cooperation.
Meaning lobbying for graft, lobbying, for head wax.
WHA.
Yeah, this is really helpful. Prominent speakers: Bill Gates, George Soros. Controversy. If you go in here further up, controversies with Davos municipality. I've skied at Davos, and I can imagine why the people who ski there are pissed at this thing.
Well, it's basically kind of taken over the town, right?
Yeah.
Characterized as the profiteering, complacency, and lack of commitment by the municipality of Davos. He sharply criticized them. Wow. Mentioned that the preparation of the COVID-19 related meeting in Singapore had created an alternative to its Swiss host and seized the chance for the annual. So is he going to? Oh, he's threatening them with Singapore, Charles.
Right. Again, when you have he's not saying that anybody can run this operation. It's Klaus Schwab, and his family that profit off this thing. I would love to see the real books and records of this thing. Here's a good one. The Boao form.
What is that?
I don't know. High level form. Yeah, that's
Nonprofit.
the Secretariat's based in Beijing.
Hmm.
I wonder if the International Toilet Initiative is featured in all these places. Remember?
Yeah.
That was at the Clinton Global Initiative.
Did they actually have that?
I think it is. Yeah, we've had an actual.
The International
You
Toilet?
can look it up. There's like I think it's the International Toilet Initiative from memory.
Oh, right, because they wanted to.
Talk shit.
I thought it was that they were trying to bring running water to people.
I'll see it popping up.
Well, I'm bringing it over here. It's they're valuing toilets. Who cares about toilets?
A good way to start
People who
off,
don't have them.
right? This is like World Toilet Day. I mean, this is like that guy at the law firm, David Kendall.
Oh yeah,
I didn't start out on the best foot. I started my first day in as
it's
a law.
a checkered legal
Right.
past. Well,
Look at all these. Say Aquafed. What is that? The toilet central bank.
I don't know.
And now, wait a minute. This is just taking it a step too far. The World Wildlife. What are we going to put toilets together for animals?
I did a whole video about how I was walking by a adopt a dog RV, and I thought it would be nice to have a dog, but I really can't take care of a dog, and I would have to train it to be able to use the toilet. And then the video that I did was all about how strange it was that the next time I was back at the apartment and looked at Instagram, it showed me a video of a golden retriever getting on a toilet and using the toilet. And I was like, how, that's a mighty big coincidence, but perhaps someone at the World Wildlife Foundation has trained a panda bear to take a crap in a toilet.
Yeah, or not. But I mean,
Maybe not.
But you look at all these things that can now come around the, what is it? Is it called the International Toilet Foundation or what is it?
This was just Toilet Day or something, World Toilet Day.
World Toilet Day.
.info.
Okay.
So any kind of information you need about that.
So you're from a hard scrabble family in Pennsylvania, and you go to Cornell, and you go through and you get an ecology major or whatever they call it these days, and you're going for job interviews, and Procter and Gamble won't have you, and
Yeah, no,
Bechtel
this is
doesn't have you, and you got to tell your father who's like working as a car mechanic, and your mother's a librarian or whatever. I got a job. I'm going to promote World Toilet Day. Oh, that's great, Johnny. That's fantastic.
It looks like something he ate.
I think the toilet does not appear terribly effective there. It's like,
I don't know what pandas eat. Don't they just eat bamboo?
I don't know.
Well, I tell you, Charles, it's quite a. I don't know. What else should we discuss? Let's see if there are any questions here.
One thing to discuss is the situation in Europe. They're not going to pronounce it Y-U-R-P. Europe.
What do you mean?
Is
no
so
electricity?
dire. I mean, here you have people at the World Economic Forum, at the Clinton Grift Initiative, at all these different places who say, listen, everything that's been working in the past, F that. In 9 years, the world's going to blow up, because of climate change and all that kind of stuff. We can't tell you what the weather's going to be like on Monday, but we know that the world is going to blow up and we've got to change course. These very same people have shut down their nuclear plants, gotten off coal.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden, I mean, what you really should be thinking about when you look at Europe is the people who are the architects of this European Union and the present dependency of Europe on
Russia
and the decisions.
They're the same ones who are saying we have to do all this other stuff.
What you need to do, all of you, is you need to decide what you're going to do in the future. What you're doing in the future is not what you've done in the past, because you're a monumental collection of fuck-ups. And this is no laughing matter. I mean, we are joking about it a bit, so I suppose it is somewhat of a laughing matter. But when I used to live upstate, around this time, late July, early August, you would start to have the odd day and night where it would get cold. And leaves would, on a few trees, if you had a large property, you start to see that there's some leaves turning in even late July, early August. And we live far to the south of much of Europe. here in New York, even where I live further north. So to say that you don't know exactly that people should shower less, or we're going to turn off the street lights because we've got to prepare for the day.
It's going to do nothing.
I know. It's preposterous. It's, it makes Corinne St-Pierre look like, Winston Churchill. I mean, it's ridiculous. But it's no laughing matter, because now not only do you have high heat domes, dwindling supplies of energy, instead of banking gas into storage, which you'd like to do in the summer, they're using gas because they don't have fuel. And on top of that, the water table is dropping, or the water levels are dropping in the rivers. And because of that, they can't transport coal to these plants. So it's just like they're failing on all fronts.
Man.
And saying that they have a vision, this great reset, is to turn civilization into a sewer. I mean, you should be happy about it. And we're just sitting there saying, why don't we go to another conference? Why don't we read another turgid memo by this Klaus Anal Schwab and his acolytes of assholery?
Well, that's his book, isn't it? Oh, wait, look at this. Alex Jones wrote a book called The Great Reset. I didn't know that. That's pretty smart. So when people search for the Klaus Schwab, they get Alex Jones.
Yeah, it will be released. It hasn't on Kindle. It hasn't been released yet.
Did a good show with Lee yesterday about the Alex Jones trial. People can still see that on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. This is the one by Anal Schwab.
Well, and speaking of that, I mean, the one person who I don't understand why you and I haven't done more of it. The one person who is suffering mightily, worse than January 6th, is Julian Assange.
Right.
They have very successfully, whoever they are,
basically killed him.
Put his revelations, which he said in May, I think, of 2016 or June or whatever, that rough time frame. I have information that will put Hillary Clinton in prison. He said that, and the geniuses at the FBI, well, let's go after Carter Page, George Papadopoulos, now Peter Navarro. Hillary's paid us off. We can't go after her.
What do we hear about what's going to happen to Julian? You're right. We should talk about this more, because it's terrible what's been happening to him. And Lee said that he's had strokes in jail. I mean, he's not going to get justice. They've had him in jail for 10 years. His health has been destroyed. His life has been destroyed.
Yeah, he must have one hell of a lot on very powerful people.
It's amazing what they've done. I can't think of anything that has ever been done to anybody that is remotely close to this. And is this him? No.
No,
when's
that's
the last time we've seen a picture of him?
I don't know.
It's his father. Yeah, why don't they send him to Australia?
Yeah, and why didn't Trump do more when he was president?
Really, yes. Again, another one of Trump's major failings.
Yeah. But I mean, you could take,
I guess maybe this is the most recent picture. He's not looking well. Look at how thin his neck is.
Yeah.
New pictures from the jail show him looking pale and gaunt.
Yeah. Belmarsh prison is not exactly...
No, it's the worst prison there, I think. Secret photos reveal he's had a sharp haircut.
And this is 3 years old.
Oh, my God. Yeah, well, he looks relatively okay there.
Right.
But still, I mean, prison for all this time.
Right. Well, what do we think Joe Biden is doing right now? I can tell you right now, he's not watching Sunday with Charles. He's probably, got jelly beans all over his face, and he's
Depends.
Yeah, let's hope.
Yeah, I mean,
sound asleep.
Getting fitted for another suit, perhaps. That one was waiting. It's weird, Charles. Of all the criticism I have of Joe Biden, normally when you see him, he looks like he's just come from the tailor.
Right.
Nice suits, well fitted.
Yeah, well,
that was ridiculous what we saw.
I know. And I mean, also this idea that you test negative and you say you
Just go right on vacation.
well, you test negative the first time, right? And then you give a press conference where you're harsh on Trump. I didn't need to go to the hospital. I still work. I did this and that. Now I've tested negative. And then, whoops, the next day it's positive. And then 7 days in a row, positive. And then all of a sudden, weekend, negative. Now, will he be positive again next week? We can only hope.
I don't know. He's not... He's testing positive for stupid, I can tell you that.
He's probably happy that he tested positive for something.
Oh, yeah, here's the fat celebration. I agree with him on this because it's encouraging. I mean, this is literally identical to being encouraging somebody to drink a lot of booze.
Well, and I the other thing I would say, and I have a number of Indian friends who, some of whom were born, say, in 1946, when before independence, when things were really, really tough, and there had been starvation. People blamed Churchill for it, and it was, this was not a bunch of people running around in fake Gucci outfits and fancy $200 sneakers or $500 sneakers and having 5 meals a day and drinking. These people were pencil thin. And I'm sorry to make the argument that you're poor, but you're also 100 pounds overweight.
Yeah.
There's some bad choices being made. I mean, when I was a kid, I was very, very thin. So I'm happy that I've actually have a little weight. I know I can lose some weight. I'm going to try to do that, but I'm not morbidly obese. And some of those pictures there.
Oh no, right? They're celebrating like, oh, you look beautiful. It's like, no, you look like you weigh 900 pounds.
Right. And again, this whole, I really think that this sort of an issue is an issue best left to the person's doctor and their family. And, it's not something, we don't need to debate how much you should weigh for a given height or, gender or whatever, or age. This is part of being a free society. If you make bad choices, you're going to suffer the consequences. But we think about how much this culture of obesity costs the health care system versus how much the COVID lockdowns cost. And, the lockdowns, I think, at this stage we could say people across the persuasion spectrum, it's not a political issue and it's not science, admit that the lockdown was a grievous mistake. It didn't work, didn't stop the spread, and it harmed people in ways that we still haven't figured out. The harm is incalculable at this point. We'll figure it out over time, but right now, who knows?
Yeah. Trump swayed by dangerous ideas.
This is in the Washington Compost. Democracy dies in darkness, which is what we're basically imposing on the world by our stupidity.
Tap to coordinate the Trump admit, but she's admitted to lying to Trump.
She's a disgrace, Dr. Scarface.
She criticized Scott Atlas and anybody who didn't agree with her. Yeah. Basically. Well,
so we have a big week ahead of us, big end of August, where Europe could fall on a lot of dangerous toxic swords here. And the other thing to point out is that Gordon Chang has done a lifetime of good work explaining what's really going on in China. And the Chinese are adept. I mean, if your deal is, you can say, what do you think of my job? And before you answer the question, Jason, how good a job I'm doing, let me just tell you that if you say I'm doing a bad job, there's room for you in that slave camp where the Uyghurs have been hanging around. So you think I'm doing a good job or a bad job? You tend to get the answer, you're doing a great job.
Positive reviews.
Right, but when you've got a team in America, you got the Scott Dees, who's the dumbest, in quotes, economist ever, saying that, well, it's not technically a recession. I mean, this jobs report, turns out the analysis is that one of the reasons we're seeing an increase in jobs is that many people to survive are taking on two jobs, and three, and they don't adjust the statistics properly. They should be looking at how many hours. They should be counting jobs. They should be counting income per person, per worker, And how are you getting that income? If you have to take 3 jobs to support your family, that's not good.
Definitely not.
You know, I mean, if you're single and you're doing it because you want to save up money to start a business, that's different. But to keep food on the table for your family, if you have to work 3 jobs, it ain't so good.
More weed news, Charles. Elon Musk says Joe Rogan weed puff meant random drug tests for him and SpaceX employees and a lot of backlash.
Right.
Huh.
You know,
I thought it was a bad idea to smoke weed on TV as the CEO of
I mean, if you're a high school kid or a college kid even, you know, maybe, but to be in your 50s, CEO of multiple public companies and private companies and, a Target.
Oh, look at this. Qatar Economic Forum.
They're all over the place. You should do the Goodman Economic Forum.
It'd be like how to go broke.
No, just, you sell tickets. It'd be like
it was pretty nutty, actually. Doing it or the backlash. Because SpaceX has a federal government contract and it's still illegal federally. So the SpaceX competitors are like, hey, why don't you do anything? Look at him brazenly smoking weed. Yeah, it was stupid.
Well, I mean, that's offsetting the fact that here in the city, in the morning I go out, pretty frequently, and then I go out again mid-morning, and I see regularly teams of workers, often with the T-shirts of the firm they're working for, smoking dope, 8 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, while they're doing electrical contracting, other kinds of mechanical contracting. Who knows if I've got to believe police officers are smoking dope.
I think it's a pretty big deal in the cops to do it. There was some police officer who got in trouble for it. I think she was fired. She got in pretty bad trouble for it. I was just reminded that there was something Elon Musk was tweeting about earlier. Oh, look.
Yeah, I was in this. I answered this poll. Look at this. This one here. Less than 5% are fake. Yes, 35%. Laughing my ass off. No. Is that what that means? Laughing my ass.
65% voted no, but of course, 65% of those who voted yes are fake. So we got to figure out how this actually. Twitter has spoken. I mean, that's just a guess. But this is interesting. This wasn't on there before. AI Day 2, and it's looking like they're going to show the
September
Tesla
30th.
Robot.
September 30th.
Right. So they had their cyber roundup, which was, I guess, just a stockholders meeting, and then the stock went down. And also, this was interesting. So he's suggested that the deal could go through if Twitter provides info verifying stuff. But then what I wanted to show was this. So here, and this is what you've been saying. So 3 days after the merger agreement was signed, Twitter restated and publicly disclosed that the daily monetizable daily average users figure in 2021 in their 10K was false.
Right. See, this is in some ways a little bit weedy and misses the point. The real point here is not 2021. The real point is from inception.
Yes.
How did you market this to shareholders and to advertisers? How did you explain what if I give Twitter $100, what am I going to get? What's the benefit am I going to get?
Nothing.
And consistently through all this stuff, you've been lying materially about how many people are going to see your ad and what potential economic benefit you got. And then you've been lying in the process of marketing securities, which have been trading in the public domain. And the back and forth that I read from the Twitter legal counsel and from Musk, the Twitter people were trying to say, well, we provide data from the fire hose for some period in July, I think it was, 2022, and that was what Musk was going to get a chance to analyze. That's not right. I would never accept that as the buyer. I would say, no, you got to go back to the inception of the company, because I got to understand the trend here. I don't care about what happened in 2022. I care about the trajectory. I care about whether this was ever right. I care about, if it's so, and how wrong is it? And, you said X, but over here it's Y. Where's your control system? Who was in charge of all this stuff? is this a real company? You know, I mean, there's, and I think all he's doing here is he's been told by his lawyers that they're going to go before a friendly, they have the magistrate, and ultimately they'll go before friendly judges. And
Why friendly?
Because I don't know if the magistrate gets the final word or not, but they're warning Musk that you've got to negotiate in good faith. So if you're going to get out of here, out of this deal, you've got to lay down now in this interregnum period a number of markers where you show that you were making a good faith effort. You did want to buy the company, even though they were over the top, even though they lied to you. You tried to put it back on. And then ultimately you're going to say, fuck you, I'm not doing this.
Well, but
and
what
this
about
is hilarious.
Yeah.
That won't go well.
Well, Agrawal's never going to do it. So
yeah, this is a central point. Not just the less than 5% fake or spam daily users. It's the real issue is the economic model of Twitter. What is it?
right.
Right? You know, why should anyone pay $1 for a Twitter share? What's the argument?
And again, I think that what Elon Musk is doing here, I don't think it was ever a straight play to buy Twitter. I mean, here he is. He's saying, let him prove to the public this is going to destroy Twitter. And I don't think that he's doing it for the wrong reason or in any way that is illegal as somebody who's trying to buy it. He's just a tough customer.
Well, and remember, remember when Motorola sold a whole bunch of its patents, I think, to Google? And
Yes.
everybody was saying, oh, this is inspired what Google is doing. And others were saying, what are you talking about? Motorola is selling this because it's garbage and they can't make money off it. So I don't know in the end what the view was on whether that was a good deal or a bad deal.
I think that Motorola was picked dry, like by buzzards and all of that stuff. Oh, yeah. I'm surprised it wasn't 33,000 patents, but Motorola Mobilities. No. They did this, I think, so that they could create Android or something. Or this was done to strategically do something with Apple. Google has said it intends to use the patents to protect Android licenses from patent lawsuits. Yes, that's what it was.
Again, I'd love to see an honest accounting of whether this actually made any sense.
I think,
33%?
yeah, they maneuvered.
Got to get that in, huh?
Right. So, I mean, I would say that is an indicator to somebody that this is a screwy deal, but don't worry, we got it under control. And then somebody else would say, you see a conspiracy around every corner. And I'd hang up the phone.
Yeah, also, the naming, person in charge of naming projects at Google.
Jelly bean.
The Jelly Bean source code. That really sounds like
Joe
something
Biden.
I got to have. Ronald Reagan's still dead, although he'd probably buy it, but you love
like
jelly
the
beans.
jelly beans. Yeah. All right. Well, Charles, I think we've pretty much covered it. I do want to remind people to check out this report that I did earlier. I've been hearing a lot about BYD making batteries and stuff, and obviously that's Warren Buffett. But what I'm talking about is this. I did a report earlier this week, kind of a mini-series about the knockout blow that's been dealt to the stupid Mario brothers in Detroit. People who have not yet seen that can check it out. I've also got links to the Subscribestar and Patreon sponsor-exclusive follow-ups that people who are truly interested in the counter-lawfare effort can check out and learn all about. That stuff is there on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. I'm super appreciative, Charles, of the people who have been sponsoring the show on Subscribestar and Patreon, because I would have had to stop doing this a long time ago if they weren't. So even if you're just a Sunday with Charles viewer, or you just watch the free shows on YouTube, please become a sponsor. And I think you're going to really like the material. There's a whole sponsor-exclusive library on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. I'm not sure what the weather is supposed to be like on Wednesday, Charles, but if it's not too hot or raining, we'll be outside again.
Or radioactive.
Right. If we haven't been vaporized by then. Oh, yeah. They also said that China, I think they jumped to a conclusion because they showed some video of this Long March Chinese rocket launching, and then they separately wrote a story that said, oh, China has an X-37 space plane. And I didn't see that. China just said they were testing a reusable rocket, which might mean they looked at what Elon Musk was doing with landing his rockets and try to do that. China loves to copy good ideas.
Really?
I mean,
Do they steal technology?
they do. Anyway, thanks for another great show, Charles. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Have a great Sunday night. See everybody soon.